Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the spectacularly unglamorous but absolutely vital world of fleet operations. It's kind of like digital plumbing, right? Nobody thinks about it until the house is completely flooded. We're going to use a platform called Grimfast to explore how massive digital portfolios actually stay afloat.
Okay, let's take a quick look at our roadmap for today. We've got the invisible operations trap, one control plane, stopping silent revenue leaks, built for EU privacy, and finally, the honest exception. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The invisible operations trap, when scale breaks things. So what actually kills a fleet of websites? You might think it's a lack of fresh content that brings a publishing empire to its knees. But honestly, it's almost never that. The content machine usually just keeps humming right along. The real killer is way more insidious.
It really comes down to something called operational debt. Think of it as this compounding, totally invisible burden of unmonitored failures across all your digital properties. Sites rarely die in some dramatic, fiery crash. Instead, they just die of neglect. They degrade slowly and quietly, one completely unnoticed failure at a time. And the math of scale here is just brutal. If you're running a handful of sites, ops isn't a dedicated discipline. It's just, a random Tuesday. You'll definitely notice if something breaks. But when you hit 100 sites, at that level, your primary bottleneck shifts entirely away from content creation. It becomes all about operations. Think about single-site ops versus fleet ops. On one site, overhead is basically invisible because you naturally catch your own mistakes just browsing around. But across a massive fleet, the sum of all that invisible overhead suddenly morphs into a full-time job that nobody ever actually scheduled. It hides in the aggregate because, let's face it, no human being can manually watch 100 properties at once. So how does this silent degradation actually play out? Well, your links quietly rot. Your plugins slowly drift out of date. Merchants will randomly change their affiliate programs without sending so much as an email. And those vital health checks, they just fall behind. By the time any of these individual issues get bad enough to surface on their own, your business has literally been bleeding for months.
Which brings us to Section 2, one control plane, seeing the fleet.
To fix this compounding mess, you've got to totally shift your perspective. Stop treating the fleet as 100 separate headaches and start treating it as one single entity with a central dashboard. Grimfast handles this by collapsing all that scattered surveillance into a single pane of glass, even integrating with tools like Slack. It essentially turns "I hope everything's fine" into "I can definitively see that everything is fine."
Because at scale, aggregation isn't just about convenience, right? It gives you a completely different kind of vision. Looking at properties one by one, you'll never connect the dots. But seeing a plugin break on 40 sites in the exact same week, that's not bad luck. That's an immediate, actionable signal. It's a structural shift you can respond to right then and there.
All right, moving into Section 3, stopping silent revenue leaks.
Let's look at a highly specific, totally unsexy problem that really hits the nail on the head for why ops matter: link health. Affiliate products get delisted all the time, or merchants just restructure their URLs. To a reader on your site, the text recommendation looks absolutely fine. They click it, and it sends them straight to a dead page. Looks fine on the surface, but it earns you absolute zero.
So you really have to ask yourself, how much money is quietly draining from pages you haven't even looked at in months? Across a huge fleet, a broken link is the literal definition of a silent revenue leak. No alarm bells, no warnings, just money dripping right out of your ecosystem.
This is exactly where Grimfast's edit by subtraction approach comes in. It runs weekly automated link health checks, surfaces those dead or redirected connections, and just stops the bleeding. It catches dead links in the dark, protecting the absolute easiest revenue you can possibly make, the money you were already earning but didn't realize you were quietly losing.
Section 4, built for EU privacy, German by default.
Now, for European publishers dealing with incredibly strict data laws, jurisdictional architecture is a huge deal. A lot of ops tooling is built US first, essentially treating the GDPR like some frustrating compliance bolt-on. Grimfast 8 doesn't do that. It operates as a completely standalone German trade entity. It maintains a strict data processing agreement and a privacy by design posture right from day one. For an EU-based publisher, that German by default setup is a genuine game changer.
And finally, Section 5, the honest exception, weighing the trade-offs.
As an impartial explainer, we really need to address the elephant in the room here. Grimfast is a hosted software as a service, which totally contradicts the whole local-first principle of owning your compute and avoiding vendor lock-in. But look at the reality. When you're building something meant to serve tons of different publishers reliably, you can't just tell them, hey, go run this on your old Mac. A hosted platform is the honest, necessary architecture here, even if it means sacrificing a bit of control.
Let's objectively break this down. The bear case is totally real. It creates SaaS dependency, it has a fairly narrow focus on link health, it's closed source, and yeah, it's absolute overkill for a single site. But the bull case? It cures the fatal flaw of scale neglect. It reclaims real measurable lost revenue. It's built EU first with strict privacy. And for anyone running a huge portfolio, it's an essential control plane. It's basically an operator's hard-won knowledge packaged up as a service.
At the end of the day, making things and deciding things, they're worth nothing if the thing you built falls over in the dark. Operations might literally be the least glamorous part of digital publishing. Nobody's handing out trophies for fixing redirects, right? But it is the critical, load-bearing layer that actually keeps the lights on. It's the layer you only ever notice when it's suddenly gone.
So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on regarding your own operational debt today. Is your fleet compounding its success, or is it quietly, silently hollowing out in the dark? I really encourage you to look a bit closer at how your own invisible engines are running. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and we'll catch you next time.